Elevate TV, advancing kingdom lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GG Report. I'm glad you're tuned in. We have some exciting ideas to discuss today. Let's begin from the start. A gentleman called Edmund Burke, an Irishman, one time said a very popular statement that you've heard before: the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Today, our show, we're going to talk about the Hesabika Trust program, a program called Mentoring Christians, that has to do with mentoring Christians in politics and public service through a program they call Governance Internship Program, or GPRO. And I have a special guest to help me go through this program. And so welcome, Madam Rachel, to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here, and I'm glad that you agreed to come on this program. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, the GG Report is a platform where we delve into big, bold ideas and have honest conversation across a range of subjects, political, social, economic. And today, actually, we're going to kind of like go to the legal side of things, because I think that's very, very important. I would like now to introduce our guest very briefly, and then I'm going to ask her to tell us about herself a little bit further. My guest today is Rachel Kitonyo Devotu, and Rachel is a trustee of Hesabika. I will be giving you more details about what Hesabika is about. She is also a regional coordinator, Africa, for a program called Makabe Center for Law and Cancer. And she has done many other things in the past. She's a lawyer. She has a legal background, and I'm going to be asking her to tell us her story about that. So Rachel, welcome to the GG Report. Good to have you.
Pleasure.
Very good. So let's start from your story. Tell us about your background and what inspired you to pursue a law profession. So I think we can start from there.
So it's quite interesting. I think I've always wanted to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was about 5-6 years old, I was agitating for the human rights of our dog.
Okay.
So my dad was beating the dog, and I was protesting and saying that's not right.
Okay.
And so from very early on, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer.
All right.
Initially, I wanted the bright lights. So there was this TV show called Ali McBeal.
Okay.
That used to have this young lady lawyer, very eloquent. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to work in a big law firm, the corner office, be a hotshot lawyer.
Yes.
So I went to Parkland's Faculty of Law, did moot courts as a student, and I loved it. And I knew I had a career in litigation.
Okay.
However, in second year, I worked for 3 months at a legal aid clinic run by the Kenya Christian Lawyers Fellowship in Mombasa. And this exposed me to the justice side of law.
Okay.
And so we were representing largely women and children. And so you'd have women whose children have been raped or defiled. I remember one time going with the lawyer, and we were chasing a case in Kilifi where the man has been accused of rape and the police have refused to arrest him.
Okay.
And so we were at the police station trying to follow up. And you can imagine the rapist and the victim live in the same village.
Okay.
And every day she meets her the rapist.
Okay.
And the police have refused to arrest.
Uh-huh.
So we are going to the police station to ask what is happening. And I thought the lawyer was being too polite.
Yes.
So when the investigating officer came, I lost it.
Yes.
And I just told him, you, what kind of man are you? Can you imagine if this was your wife, this was your daughter, this was your sister? And I yelled for like 10 minutes and everybody came out to see. So after that, the lawyer is like, okay, we don't quite talk to police like that. I'm like, no, he needed to be told off. So I went back to campus, I finished, but I still wanted the corner office.
All
so
right.
I did my pupillage at a big law firm.
Okay.
I wouldn't say which, but it's been in the news recently,
Okay.
representing the Chief Justice.
Okay.
And I thought I was well on my way to the corner office.
Yeah. No, it's very attractive. You know, I mean, if you want to become a lawyer, you want to become the best, and then work with the big ones, and earn big money.
Yeah.
Yes, and be very successful. Yes.
So at the end of my pupillage, the Fellowship of Christian Unions, they ran a program called Short-Term Experience in Ministry.
Yes.
So I'd interacted with Focus while I was a member of the CU.
Okay.
Came and asked me if I would consider to join them for 1 year to work at a campus.
Okay.
And I really struggled with that decision because I was like, I'm finally in the kind of law firm where I want to build a career.
Yes.
And how do I explain taking off 1 year to go into student ministry?
Okay.
I mean, how does that link to being a lawyer? So I
Yeah.
really struggled, and God eventually asked me, do you believe that I can bring you back into the law firm? So I told him yes. So he said, okay, take the year off. So
Okay.
I told my bosses, and by then they'd already given me my own office.
Yes.
I knew they were actually going to hire me.
Yes.
And then I told them, sorry, I'm leaving. And they're like, where are you going? And I say, I'm going into student ministry.
Okay.
And they couldn't get it.
All right.
So anyway, I worked for a year at Kenyatta University Christian Union,
Okay.
working with the students. And that gave me a passion for young people, for mentoring.
Yeah.
And then in the interaction with Focus, they have a branch which was called the Focus Associates Social Action Mobilization Office.
Okay.
And so this tried to get the students, once they graduated, to use their profession to impact society.
Okay.
So I attended one of their conferences in 2004,
Yes.
and the theme was lobbying and advocacy.
Okay.
And so by then, of course, I had graduated, and I was waiting to be admitted to the bar.
Okay.
And I started asking myself, as a lawyer, what can I do to give back to society?
Okay.
So in that conference, we were a group of about 20. And so following the group discussions, at the end of the conference,
Yes.
we are like, let's have a meeting and see what to do about giving back.
Yeah. So I think you can hold it there. Viewers, as you follow this conversation, Rachel has a big story, and one of the things you've talked about, you've mentioned actually in passing, and I think it's something we need to emphasize here on the Focus Fellowship of Christian Unions.
Yes.
In Kenya.
Yes.
Is a Focus, is an organization that actually works with Christian unions in universities and colleges.
Yes.
And coordinates the activities, and kind of like it's an umbrella body that empowers student unions and ensures that they're actually functioning. And then the STEM program, which Rachel is talking about, was started several years ago, I think in somewhere 2000 and something.
Yes.
And it's been a program, an opportunity where someone who graduates from university can actually have 1 year to serve students. This time around, you're not a student, but you're working within the Focus system to support students and to support the Christian Union in the
Yes.
university.
Yes.
And you'd stay in the university.
Yes. So you would get a house either in the campus or nearby.
Okay.
And you worked with the Christian Union, largely the Christian Union leadership.
Yes.
So you did training
Yes.
on everything from preaching to time management to, if there were students in politics, you worked with them.
Yes.
So in essence, you supported the CU leaders. You did a bit of discipleship and mentoring.
Yes.
And so it's a 1 year program that really immerses you in student ministry.
That's true. That's true. And that's very helpful because, these students, come in, from high school. They are obviously growing and learning their way around. And if you've gone through the whole system yourself, then you have something to offer. And that's actually kind of like inspired the idea of giving back, the idea of what can you do to actually support others who are coming into behind you.
Yes.
Okay. So then you attended this conference. So this
Yes.
this very eye-opening, life-changing conference. Tell us
Yes.
about that. Yeah.
So we had somebody who came from Parliament to speak to us.
Yes.
And he was talking about the challenges that members of Parliament face.
Yes.
And we criticized them a lot.
Okay.
Most of the criticism is justified.
Yes.
But I think the point he meant, because at that point where I was, I felt that MPs were overpaid and underworked.
Okay.
So when you looked at the amount of legislation that came out of Parliament,
Yes.
and so remember this is 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you'd get in a year,
Yeah.
maybe there are 6 bills that pass.
Okay.
So a lot of politicking and very little actual legislative work going on.
Okay.
And so he said people criticize them for that,
Yes.
but he said that there's also a reason why that happens.
Yes.
And so there's no degree called being member of Parliament.
Okay.
So these people get into Parliament, and who has taught them how to be an MP?
All right.
Remember those days, right now there's a Center for Parliamentary Studies.
Yes.
Those days it wasn't there.
Okay.
So you merely got either a very good politician,
Yes.
or you got some people who genuinely wanted to lead,
Yes.
but they're doctors, they're teachers, they're farmers, they're rabble-rousers,
Yes.
and then they end up in Parliament.
Yes.
And so they don't have the support that is necessary to actually do the legislative work.
Okay.
And so he said one of the biggest lack that they have is who gives them technical support.
Okay.
So say you get a member of Parliament who wants to bring a private member's bill.
Okay.
At that point in time, they would have to draft it themselves. Remember,
Yes.
they are not a lawyer.
Yes.
And even me as a lawyer then, who are not taught drafting. Drafting is a specialized skill.
Okay.
So you'd have to draft the law yourself.
Yes.
And then you'd have to figure out which people to get to support you, some academics to do for you some research.
Yes.
And then eventually you'd have to then do the political work of garnering support.
Yes.
You'd have to do the media advocacy. So
Yes.
it's a lot of work to get a private member's bill through the door.
Okay.
And so he said, instead of criticizing,
Yes.
what you can do if you're concerned
Yes.
is to step in and fill that gap.
Okay.
And so we said, that's great. We are lawyers. I think this is one place we can plug in
Yes.
to make a difference.
Okay.
And so all of us had day jobs. At the time I was working at a law firm. All the rest were working. So we would meet on Saturdays and brainstorm and discuss. And eventually we realized we were forming a lobby group.
Okay.
Now again, there's no university that has a course called lobbying.
Okay.
So we had to figure out all of this as we went along.
Yes.
And so we said, let's pick one issue to kind of cut our teeth on.
Yes.
And so when we looked around, we asked ourselves, is there an issue that has been dragging in Parliament that probably is not popular, politically may not be expedient,
Yes.
and that's the reason it's not moving?
Yes.
But then even deeper than that,
Yeah.
if it is enacted,
Yes.
it will have a real impact on
Okay.
every Kenyan.
Okay. On the
And so-
society.
on the
yes.
society.
Yes.
And so we landed on the issue of tobacco control.
Okay.
And so there'd been a tobacco control bill pending since 1998
Oh.
in Kenya, and obviously was not making headway because there's a huge opponent called BAT on the other side.
Yeah.
With deep pockets,
Yes.
can bribe MPs,
Yes.
can bribe all the way up to the highest officers in the land.
Okay.
And so obviously they had put a hold on this bill.
Yes.
And so we decided, why don't we pick this up
Okay.
and learn how to do the business by actually getting this law passed.
Get this done. Get this
So
done.
we
Yeah.
picked it up in 2004, walked over into the Ministry of Health,
Yes.
said, we are aware there's a bill you're struggling with.
Yes.
We want to help.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we're not making much headway. I think there was some political interference that had happened.
Yes.
And so typically what these people will do is that they compromise a politician.
Yes.
So they'll come and do a development project, CSR,
Yes.
in your constituency.
Yes.
So they say, we'll come and help you build a toilet.
Okay.
On the surface, that looks really good.
Yes.
Until you realize that that toilet, anytime now you try to do anything,
Yes.
remember our toilet?
Yeah.
And the toilet is branded. So something like that had happened. And
Okay.
so the politicians in the ministry really couldn't move forward the bill.
Okay.
So we then said, okay, then clearly let's change strategy. We can't work with the ministry. Let's look for a member of parliament that is willing to push this bill.
Okay.
So we got the Honorable Gor Sungu.
Yeah.
He was willing to do it as a private member's bill.
Yeah.
And then we teamed up with Kaguthi at Nakada.
Okay.
So Kaguthi was so excited. And you know,
Okay.
Kaguthi was passionate. I mean, I
Yes.
wish every public servant could be like Kaguthi. He has his faults, but
Yes.
in terms of passion, you couldn't fault him for that.
Okay.
And he said, finally, I have gotten lawyers who are willing to work with me.
All right.
So he said, I can't give you any money, I can't pay you,
Yes.
but I can give you a boardroom anytime you need to meet.
Okay.
And if there's any politician you want to talk to,
Yes.
I can connect you.
All right.
So we would meet in his boardroom on Saturdays. We
Yes.
started drafting the bill.
Yes.
And then now together with Sungu, we started the process of getting it through the House.
Okay.
And so this was basically a pressure tactic because
Okay.
ultimately tobacco control is a health issue. The Ministry of Health should have been pushing it.
Yes.
So now when our bill got to first reading, that prompted the ministry to also table theirs for first reading.
Okay.
And then when they would slacken on their bill, we push ours for second reading.
Yes.
So eventually there were two bills competing in the House.
Yes.
And the speaker is like, this is creating confusion because
Yes.
there was Tobacco Control Bill number 1
Yes.
and Tobacco Control Bill number 2.
Okay.
So eventually ministry was ordered to work with Sungu. And now we sat down with them, merged the two bills,
Yes.
and eventually got a strong tobacco control law, which eventually passed in 2007.
Okay.
So
And it got the assent of the president.
got the assent of the president.
Yeah.
And Kenya actually now has got one of the best tobacco control laws in Africa.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful. That's a very interesting background to the whole idea. I think it touches on the various elements, especially because today we want to focus on how we mobilize and mentor Christians, especially in the political space. So which is a very, very good thing. Now, you've successfully now put in a bill through Parliament and helped that, and then I think then what became of the boardroom, the Kaguthi boardroom using a team of lawyers?
So eventually we realized we had to register.
Okay.
So now become formally organized.
Okay.
So we registered an NGO called the Institute for Legislative Affairs.
Okay.
And still working to date.
Yes.
So I was the first executive director, and then I left. And since
And then,
the
then my
tobacco
friend,
control,
my friend Vincent is the one who replaced
Who
you.
replaced
Vincent
me.
Kimon. So people know Vincent. He's been on this show before, so that's a good thing.
So one of the things we picked from Focus was the idea of getting young people. And
Okay.
so Institute for Legislative Affairs runs a mentorship program.
Okay.
And so we would get a young graduate fresh from the university.
Yes.
And basically bring them in and train them. So Vincent joined us when he was about 3 years out of campus.
Okay.
And eventually then when I left, he took over.
Okay.
So that's the model, that we get young people fresh, so long as they are passionate.
Okay.
You cannot train passion.
Yeah.
Passion is innate. Anything else can be trained.
Yes.
Skills can be picked. You can learn subject matters.
Yes.
But passion must be inherent. And so for us,
Passion.
if we find a young, passionate person,
Yes.
we can train anything else into them.
Absolutely.
And so we picked tobacco control. We are also behind the Unclaimed Financial Assets law
Yes,
in this
yes,
country.
yes.
And then we've done work in mental health,
Yes.
on road safety,
Yes.
and on alcohol control.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very, very good. Wonderful. Now, if you're following this conversation, we are talking about how do we mentor people into the political space. And Rachel has done some fantastic work. She's been involved right from the early days of her career, and she discovered her passion, I think at the police station when she really just aired out, her frustration, and felt that there was need for someone to step in for someone whose rights had been abused. So if you're following us, please send us your comment on the numbers below. Those watching from the social media platforms, please comment. And if you have a question, you can write it down, and please follow us. You might also want to get in touch with Rachel. Please just let us know through those platforms. So now, Rachel, you got involved in this whole thing as a profession, playing in this field, legislative affairs, working with politicians and pushing agendas, which clearly you noticed that were not necessarily, they had to be very well done so that then they can find their way, navigate their way through the political, what did you call it? The political wind and challenges.
Yes.
What was your experience like? What challenges did you face? Here you are, you're Christian, you're professional, you're a lawyer, and you have to navigate through people who you clearly know that they probably aren't interested in what you're trying to pursue.
So one of the challenges, of course, was youth. And as I'm saying, some of these things, there's no school that teaches them. And so, for example, like what we are trying to do in GPRO, I
Yeah.
wish I had this kind of program
Yeah.
then.
Yes.
Because at that time, I think I was 22, 23.
Yes.
So you're passionate, you've got energy, but
Yes.
sometimes you don't have knowledge.
Yes.
And you need somebody to hold your hand.
Okay.
Now, one of the other things that I did, I've had quite a checkered career,
Yes.
is that in 2006,
Yes.
I felt so fine, I've engaged with the political process
Yes.
from the side of parliament.
Yes.
And I felt I want to engage in politics.
Okay.
So I met a group of friends who were politicians from Western Kenya
Okay.
who wanted to run.
Yeah.
And so we had mutual interests.
Yes.
I was always looking for people who, when they get into parliament,
Yes.
can then become our next push our private members bill.
Yeah.
So they invited me to a meeting at their political party. I went in and I was asked to become a party member.
Oh, okay.
So I paid 5,000 shillings and became a card-carrying member of the party.
Yes.
And because I was very young, vibrant, I talk a lot.
Yes.
Then I was roped into the party's youth wing. And eventually I ended up working in ODM.
Okay.
So I was now working in the party office.
Okay.
And I was a PA to a candidate.
Okay.
So now I met politics on the ground.
Wow.
And again, the challenges were the same. Young lady. There are a lot of men who then see, this is a very nice young girl.
Yes.
So you'd be propositioned and you had to figure out how to navigate that.
Yes.
So obviously I'm born again. I'm not interested in being a rich man's girlfriend.
Yes.
And yet these are powerful people and you
Right.
may need them. You know, you never burn bridges.
Yes.
So you have to figure out how to say, no, sorry, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So I was lucky that the politician I was working for held my hand.
Okay.
And so mentored me in that process.
Okay.
And there are so many other young people who need that.
Yes.
And that is one of the things that we want to do through GPRO.
Okay.
Get these people when they are still young, they are still passionate.
Yes.
And more importantly, install values.
Okay.
And so the politician I was working with, I actually at some point lived in her house.
Okay.
So I got to see her life.
Yes.
In terms of walk in her constituency, mingle with her people. I was entrusted with money. So
Okay.
there are times I would be carrying 2 to 3 million shillings in the handbag,
Oh.
which wasn't mine.
Okay.
And you can imagine I'm just 24.
Oh, okay.
And having to deal with constituents, pay out money. So I was known as the money lady.
Okay.
I remember one time we were campaigning in Western.
Yes.
And we were at a campaign rally and
Yes.
I got out to listen to the speech.
Yes.
And then I forgot to keep an eye on the candidate.
Yes.
So when she finished, she jumped into the car and they drove off.
Yes.
And I was left in the crowd.
Okay.
And everybody knew I'm the one that carries money.
Yeah.
They converged on me. I was almost kidnapped, you know. So it was an interesting bit, but I think what that birthed in me
Yes.
was one, understanding Kenya.
Yes.
Many young people don't know their country.
Yes.
Understanding issues from the perspective of the constituency, from the ground.
Yes.
Because we can be elitist. Remember, I'm a lawyer.
Yes.
And I've mingled with politicians, the high and mighty.
Yes.
You have to be able to see these issues from the perspective of the ground.
Absolutely.
And so that 1 year of campaigning, being in Kajiado, seeing children who don't have shoes.
Yes.
You know, when you give them a sweet, it's like Christmas has arrived.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a grown-up middle class. I've never slept hungry.
Yes.
Realizing that there are children who go to bed without sleeping.
Yes.
That there are children who've never worn
Yeah,
shoes.
without teaching. Yeah, and
You know?
not worn shoes. Yes.
So seeing Kenya from that side, and then I've grown up in Nairobi.
Yes.
So when you go to Garissa, when you go to Mandera,
Yes.
you realize there's another Kenya.
Yes.
There's the Kenya that you have here, alafu kuna ingine hapo nje. And so that changed a lot about how I think about things.
Yes.
And so when you talk about justice, when you start thinking about how do the laws and the structures
Yes.
actually work to change the lives of these people,
Yes.
I think for me that was an eye-opening experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it must have really like inspired you. I mean, really, you know, you have the tools, the technical, know-how, the technical skills. You're a lawyer, you're ambitious, you have the skills, and you know you can make a change. And here you are interacting with people, and look, this is amazing. So please keep following us. We want to, talk about now the Hesabika. We want to talk about Hesabika. A lot of people are not familiar with Hesabika. And again, it's the whole idea of elitism. You know, there are very good ideas that are out there that the person on the ground, the common man, is not aware. But of course, there is need for structures and institutions along the way, along the chain, until you get to the person on the ground. So tell us about Hesabika. You're a member of the board of trustee for Hesabika. What's the institution about? And then how it links to the mentorship program.
So you remember when I started, I said when we formed the Institute for Legislative Affairs,
Yeah.
we're basically saying that we want to stop complaining
Yes.
about a problem
Yes.
and do something about it.
Yes.
And so that's the same idea behind Hesabika.
Okay.
Hesabika's motto is translating concern into action.
Okay.
And so Kenyans like to complain.
Yes.
We complain about our politicians. We complain about the economy.
Yes.
We complain about the education system.
Yes.
We complain about the healthcare. If you want to complain, there are a lot. We complain about corruption. There are many things to complain about.
Absolutely.
And so what Hesabika is saying is that let's stop complaining.
Yes.
If this issue bothers you so much,
Yes.
do something about it.
Yes.
And the way in which you go about it is, if you look at the totality of the issues, you'll get overwhelmed.
Yes.
How can one person change Kenya?
Yes.
The reality is that you can't.
Yes.
But you can change one thing.
Yes.
So pick the one thing
Yes.
that you're concerned about.
Okay.
The same way we did.
Yes.
We said we are lawyers, we
Yes.
are unhappy with parliament.
Yes.
We picked that one thing
Yes.
and we did something about it.
Absolutely.
And so Hesabika is a baby of the Fellowship of Christian Unions.
Yes.
And at a conference in 2016,
Yes.
that brought together Christian professionals,
Mm-hmm.
the idea was, how can we change Kenya?
Okay.
And so how can we translate all of these concerns that we have
Uh-huh.
into action?
Okay.
And so after this conference, then it was realized that we need to set up an organization separate from Focus, because
Yes.
Focus's primary mission is evangelizing the campus students.
Yes.
And if then you start this whole new line of thought,
Yes.
it can detract from the primary mission.
Okay.
But we are still a child of Focus. So
Yes.
the Focus is one of the trustees of Hesabika.
Okay.
And so what we are all about is mobilizing people, starting first with Christians,
Yes.
professionals and students,
Yes.
and then eventually the whole nation to stand up and do something, which
Okay.
is now the meaning of kuhesabika.
Okay.
And you see, hesabika is, in English, we call it imperative. It's
Okay.
a command.
Yeah.
It's not tafadhali to hesabike.
Yes.
It is stand up and be counted.
Absolutely.
And so the ways in which we are standing up to be counted, there are about 6 key pillars of Hesabika.
Okay.
And today we'll talk about the one that brought us here today.
Yeah.
And so basically how to raise the next generation of leaders in this country.
Okay.
And then a second key one is integrity in the workplace.
Okay.
And so in looking at the many problems, we realized that in the political arena,
Yes.
political and governance, there is a problem in Kenya.
Okay.
And so the problem is that, one, I feel we have got too much politics
Yes.
and not enough governing.
Okay.
And there is a place for politics.
Yes.
There are political parties. That's the way by which we select leaders. But once they get into office, they
Yes.
need to stop politicking and actually govern. So
Yes.
when you're an
Yeah.
MCA, when you're an MP, when you're in the Senate, even when you're the president of Kenya,
Yeah.
we put you there to govern.
Okay. Yes.
And so the challenge in Kenya that we have is that we then get people who lack what I would call the software.
Okay.
And so the second problem that we have seen that we are trying to correct with our program
Yeah.
is the lack of values.
Okay. So there are two issues. There is need for, to get into, to Hesabika,
Yes.
to stand up and be counted. That's what the Swahili Hesabika means.
Yes.
Stand up to be counted.
Yes.
And then there is the issue of the social values, value-driven kind of engagement. And you're saying that, look, there is a place for politics and there is a place for governance. So you can come into, as a politician, you get into parliament, for example. But once you're in parliament, your next duty is to govern.
Yes.
And that requires that you know what you're doing.
Yes.
And then you have and then the moral framework within which you actually engage. Okay, very good. You're following us on the Gigi report. We're talking about this mentorship program, how to mentor young people who are passionate. I like Rachel, what Rachel is talking about, that passion is something you cannot train, but passion is where you start from. So if you're passionate about leading Kenya, changing things in this country, and not just complaining, there is a way you can pick up a matter and really engage with it, and there will be results. So that's a very good conversation, and so we want to go into a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about so how Hesabika has, of course, you said right now one of the key things you picked up is the mentorship program. And hopefully that can be the way you contribute in changing the narrative. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the other issues that you're dealing with. And then we talk about a few more things, what you think Kenya should become. Okay, so we go into a break. And then when we come back, we'll go back to the conversation on the mentorship program. So bye for now, but please don't go away. Stay tuned, and we'll come back to this. Thank you.
Are you passionate about performing arts? Are you an actor, actress, narrator, poet or scriptwriter? This is the biggest break that you and your group have been waiting for. Kipaji Festival 2021 presents an amazing opportunity to showcase your gift in acting, narrating and poetry. It is big, it is rewarding. You can register for a play, narrative and poetry or spoken word. The winning play walks away with 200,000 Kenyan shillings and many other goodies. Lots of other prizes to be won. This is an opportune time and season to elevate the gospel through performing arts. To register for the auditions, you have to belong to a sound recognized church. For more details on the registration, call 0719 66 66 55. Kipaji Festival, elevating Christian performing arts. Powered by Elevate TV.
What's your take on young people and dating in a church setting? What are the do's and don'ts?
I wouldn't encourage someone, a young man, to have a relationship, a special relationship with a young lady when they are not ready to get married. There's a statement that has been used often: don't specialize, but generalize. Because when you begin to specialize and say, this is my special girl, or this is my special boy, and at that time you're in your teenage or your early 20s, you're not intending to marry soon, then you're setting up yourself for disappointment and regrets.
Welcome back to the Gigi Report. I believe that you're enjoying the conversation. Please stay tuned and remember to give us a comment or ask a question. Tell us what you'd like to, some of the things that you'd like us to address in the future. If you have a question, please ask or comment. Just give us your comment and let's engage on this matter. We're talking about mentoring young people or Christians into politics. Remember, we started by saying that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is if good men do nothing. So a lot of Christians and Kenyans in general are always complaining about the many things that they see going wrong: corruption, education, all kinds of issues, parliament, these guys are not serious and all that. But there is something you can do. And Rachel here is giving us her story and how she's been involved in the Hesabika mentorship program, which you're telling us before we went into a break, and how that actually is sort of just complaining. There is always something we can do. So tell us a little bit more about some of the other programs that are part of the Hesabika, trust, and what you guys are up to. And then a little bit more now on the mentorship program and where you are on the mentorship program.
So the first pillar is how we can serve the church prophetically to help it fulfill its mission. And again, coming from the mindset that so there needs to be passion for the gospel. And I think Kenyans, we are 85% Christian.
Yes.
So there is some passion.
Yes.
But then there also needs to be knowledge.
Yes.
And knowledge sometimes is also technical.
Yes.
And so one of the things we've done under this, I don't know if you've heard about the Church Governance Code of Conduct.
No, but
so where this came from is there'd been a series of incidents in the press of church leaders basically conning their followers. And so you heard of the purple water, the fake miracles, the planter seed. And so there was a lot of uproar about how the church is failing to regulate itself,
Okay.
and to regulate certain rogue elements of the church.
Okay.
Because it's not all the church that is doing these things.
Yes.
It's a few high-profile incidents, and then the whole church is labeled, we are corrupt, we are bad.
Yeah.
And then obviously we lose the moral authority to accuse the government of corruption
Yes.
if there is corruption within our own ranks.
Okay.
And so again, as Hesabika, we said, instead of joining the complaining, the pointing fingers,
Yes.
what can we do?
Okay.
And so we said we can help the church to improve how it governs itself.
Okay.
And also at the same time, there was a move from the government. I think there was a bill a member of parliament wanted to bring.
There was a
to
bill,
actually
yes.
regulate the church.
Exactly.
And this scared the church leaders.
Yes.
And they're like, no, we don't want to be regulated.
Yes.
But if you don't want to be regulated, then you have to regulate yourself.
Okay.
And so we said we can help you come up with a code of conduct,
Okay.
where we will say that these are principles and things that we have agreed we will do,
Yes.
so that we tame the rogue elements in our midst, because that's really what created the uproar.
Okay.
And so we brought together lawyers, we brought together people from the Certified Institute of Public Secretaries,
Yes.
we brought people together in the governance sector,
Yes.
and a lot of these are government bodies.
Yes.
And then we came up with a code of conduct for the church.
Okay.
And then now we approached NCCK, we approached the Conference of Catholic Bishops, we approached the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya,
Yes.
and basically said, we have come up with this document.
Yes.
Can you now, as church leaders, sit down and look at it? And if you think it is good,
Yeah.
can we mobilize our members
Yes.
to then sign up to this code of conduct?
Okay.
And so it touches everything from how churches are registered, how they are governed.
Yes.
You know, there are many churches that are like personal NGOs.
Yes.
It's a property of the pastor.
Yes.
But that is bad governance.
Yes.
And so the same way we expect other organizations to be well governed, churches equally need to have good governance.
Absolutely.
So yes, there is a place of the Holy Spirit in appointing leadership,
Yes.
and then there is a place of governance.
Okay.
And so it's not, there's need to have structures in churches,
Yes.
regulations over how money is handled.
Yes.
And so all of these things are in the draft code of conduct.
Yes.
And we've now started meeting with the clergy to discuss it. In fact, right now as we speak, there is a meeting going on,
Yes.
where the clergy are going through this document.
Okay.
And over the next 3 to 6 months, we'll now actually be going region to region,
Yes.
bringing the pastors together,
Okay.
so that we can get buy-in for this code of conduct.
That's true.
So that's one pillar.
Yeah, that's a very critical pillar. And basically you're saying, look, there is a way that we can actually put together a document, this whole exercise is actually like to document what we consider as principles by which we can govern our church and our Christian life.
Yes.
and our institutions. So that then when somebody is asking, so you Christians, you're breaking your own rules, you can show them the document. And this is signed off.
Yes.
And at this, it's still ongoing.
It's still ongoing.
Okay, that's work in progress. That's
Work in
great.
progress.
Okay.
Then the second pillar, as I mentioned, is raising the next generation of leaders.
Yes.
And so here we look at mentorship programs.
Okay.
And so just drawing from the rich experience of Focus, where you get a young person, you give them exposure,
Yes.
you give them training. And basically what we are talking about is building the Christian mind.
Okay. Very
And so
good.
when we are talking about the Christian mind, there's the technical element.
Yes.
And then, as I mentioned, there's a critical values element.
Okay.
Because values underpin what you do, and more importantly, why you do it,
Yes.
and then how you do it.
Exactly.
And so last year we started off with a program where we had 25 young people who are passionate about changing their city.
Okay.
And so their passions ranged from working with street children to working with young men to working with young women. And we took them through 1 year.
Okay.
And the way our programs are structured is that we have got content. And so we develop a curriculum.
Okay.
And they have monthly meetings where we have a speaker. They have readings, so books they have to read. Because
Okay.
another critical thing is building a reading culture.
Okay.
When you're going to talk about how you're going to develop your ideology and your philosophy in life,
Yes.
it has to be based on knowledge. And so we encourage them to read, and then we attach them to a mentor.
Okay.
So this is somebody older who has walked that path, who then can walk with you.
Okay.
And what we are trying to do here is to build character.
Okay.
Because the biggest problem is not a lack of structures, it's not even a lack of laws,
Yes.
it is a lack of values.
That's, you can say that over and over, Rachel, because I think in this country we are at a crossroad as a developing country. Then there's the fact that globalization, we are all interconnected, so we are like feeding from across various platforms. Social media is here. You can watch. We are watching the world as it unfolds before us, right on our phones. And so, if we do not work on our values, we're probably going to be a very mixed and confused people, because we're going to be embracing Western values, our own values, and Christian values, and all that. When you mix all that, you don't know what you are. we don't know who we are as Kenyans and what is valuable for us to take our nation forward. So that's very, very important.
So now the last, so this year we then switched our focus a bit and said that another area where we need to raise the next generation of leaders is the political and governance area.
Okay.
And so the idea behind the governance internship program is we have 20 interns that we have recruited.
Okay.
These are people who are 1 to 3 years out of campus.
Okay.
And who have expressed an interest in joining government in terms of working in the civil service or in running for a political position.
Okay.
And so we went through, we advertised, we got people, we interviewed them. And so the critical criteria is they are born again.
Okay.
2, they have a clear passion for either going into working in the civil service or running for political office.
Yes.
They have some track record of having done that. So either they were a student leader in the university or they have actually engaged in the political process.
Yes.
And are willing to give 1 year of their life on this internship program.
All right.
And so the components of the program are classroom sessions. And so we've started off this week. They're currently doing our induction.
Yes.
And we are talking about really the values that underpin a godly public servant or a godly politician.
Okay.
And then we'll now give them the technical introduction to government.
Okay.
So they'll spend 1 week at the Kenya School of Government, because if they're going to go into the public service, they need to understand the technicalities of how you actually serve the public and how you govern.
Absolutely.
And then after that, they'll have 1 week at the Center for Parliamentary Studies.
Okay.
So if then you're going to engage on the policy process, you need to understand how are laws made in this country and what are the technicalities of that.
Yeah.
And then lastly, 1 week with the Judiciary Training Institute.
Okay.
And so after this 1 month of the classroom session, we then go to the practicals.
Okay.
And so for the practicals, they'll be attached. We are partnering with the State Department of Youth. And so 15 of them will be attached at the State Department of Youth in various places like the NYS, the Youth Council. There are various departments there.
Okay.
And they're going to have 11 months of actually serving the public.
Okay.
Put into practice what you were taught. Now these are practicals. And then the third bit, which as I've said, is the software, because we've now given them the hardware, the values. We then have got an 11-month curriculum where there's a monthly meeting.
Okay.
They have readings, so there are books that they're supposed to read according to the topics.
Yes.
And then we attach them to a mentor.
Okay.
And so this mentor is somebody who has got 10 to 15 years of experience in the public sector.
Yes.
So we've got mentors, some who work at the Treasury, who work at the Ministry of Interior, those who are working with various different government bodies, who then will work with these young people and basically help to form a godly mindset and a godly character and be able to answer practical questions.
Yes.
What do you do when you're asked for a bribe?
Okay.
Or you have to give a bribe?
Okay.
How do you manage convincing your boss to do something?
Okay.
How do you manage working with the public?
Okay.
The different pressures that face a public servant
Okay.
are not just from a moral perspective, from a Christian perspective.
Absolutely.
And so all of these mentors are born again,
Yes.
but also really experienced in what they do.
Okay.
And then because they also work with policy, then they will also give that. And so what we are hoping is that at the end of this 12-month program, so we've just started, it will end in January next year, we'll have people who are technically competent.
Exactly.
And because of the certification they'll be given by the Kenya School of Government,
Yes.
if then they apply for a government job,
Yes.
which they should because they're actually doing this program because they want to work in government,
Yes.
they will have a head start.
Absolutely.
They will also have work experience because
Yes.
that's what every young person is looking for.
Every
Where
young
is the
pe-
experience?
every young person,
But
one of the places.
most importantly,
Yes.
they will have godly character and godly values.
Absolutely.
And so our vision is long term, and we are saying in 10, 15 years' time, we're going to have a cabinet secretary out of this pool of 20.
Wow.
We could have members of parliament out of this. We
Yes.
could even have a president.
Out of that.
And so
group.
that is the long term vision.
Absolutely. I love that. I believe that you can see this whole idea of you cannot just complain about how things are going wrong. You know, that's not enough. That's if you really are going to complain, you had better wake up and do something about it. And so, Rachel, you guys are doing an amazing work. The governance in mentorship program, it's an absolutely game changer. I believe that that's a real, well thought out program. Of course, some of you are watching and you're wondering, how about I'm interested. Okay, there is a cohort that has already been recruited. They are ongoing. You can't join now. You have to wait for the next one. So, but please get in touch with me. or Rachel. If you get in touch with us on the numbers on the screen, we can link you up with Rachel and the Hesabika program. Actually, you can go to the hesabika.com website, www.hesabika.com, and then you see the program is advertised there, and then you can contact them and see how you can get involved in this. So, Rachel, I believe this is a real amazing, initiative, because you're saying we cannot just keep talking about changing Kenya. We have to actually do something practical about it. Very good. So, but you had the other city mentorship program. How did that go?
So it went very well. The 20 who went through that cohort. So as I said, these are people who have a day job.
Okay.
And I think one of the key things to tell people is that people think about full-time ministry, and that is for pastors and other people.
Yes.
Full-time ministry is for everybody.
All right.
So your place of ministry is your workplace.
Okay.
And so I have a day job.
Yeah.
I work on law and cancer.
Yes.
8 to 5.
Yes.
I'm also in Hesabika.
Yes.
I'm also in the other NGO.
Yes.
I'm also mentoring young people.
Yes.
So I'm in full-time ministry just like you. Only that
Absolutely.
instead of doing it in a church,
Yes.
I do it in my profession
That's
and with the
true.
people that I interact with every day.
That's true.
And so these 20 are back where they were working.
Okay.
And continuing to further their passion.
Okay.
And so you've got people who are involved in the men's ministry in their church, the youth ministry in their church.
Okay.
Some are engaging with local NGOs or starting their own NGO.
Yes.
And so those people are now out there.
Yes.
This year, our focus, obviously also because an election is coming, and
Yes.
we actually have one person who's running for an MCA.
Oh, okay.
And so he said, for me, this has come at the absolute right time.
Okay.
It's going to equip me so that when I get into office next year,
Yes.
we'll see an MCA with a difference.
Absolutely.
And then later on, towards the later half of the year, we now want to start a similar mentorship program
Yeah.
for those who want to go into business.
Okay.
And so we are going to be partnering with an organization called Synapis
Okay.
that talks about kingdom business.
Okay.
So equally in the business world, we also need godly people who run a business according to the rules of business, because there is an art and science of running a business. That's why
Absolutely,
there's
yes.
an MBA called Master of Business Administration.
That's true.
There's a science.
Yes.
But then there's also what values they need to underpin, so that when you say that I'm a Christian in business, how do I run my business?
All right.
How do I treat my employees?
Yes.
How do I engage with the public? So if you're a Christian businessman, your customer service must be a notch above others.
Yes.
How do I run a successful business? We know a lot of businesses start and they die within 2 years.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're going to have a godly business, it should not be a failing business.
Yes.
It should be a thriving business.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, how can you use your business even to witness?
Okay.
So that when people walk in, it's not just a kiosk.
Yes.
It's a kiosk where they feel Christ in that kiosk.
That's true.
It's
That's-
a M-Pesa where they feel Christ even as they do that M-Pesa.
That's true.
And so that's now the next place we want to go into.
Okay.
So that again, eventually we can say we have a Manu Chandaria
Yes.
who's born again.
Okay.
I'm nothing against Manu Chandaria, but someone of that caliber
Yes.
who then can say, I have built a business over 20, 30 years,
Yes.
and it is centered on the word of God.
Actually, that's so powerful and so true. I had a discussion with one of my friends, and one of the things we were noting is that even for those who want to go into politics, for example, and maybe you want to garner for a parliamentary seat or a Senate seat. Now there are Senate seats that are multiplying. If BBI passes, you're going to be having 94. That is double what we have, and governors and all that. Huh? So we noted that I think one of the biggest barrier is financial capacity. So if we don't empower people to actually build wealth, sufficient wealth, so that then if you're going to go into politics, and we're not saying, I'm not excusing the idea that you need money to bribe your way around to win the votes of the people. No, the whole campaigning, selling your idea is a costly affair.
Yes.
So you actually need to have some money or capital that you can actually expend onto that venture.
Actually, Geoffrey, I would like to cut you short there.
Yeah.
And say, and now I'm speaking to the rest of us, those
Yes.
of us who are not running.
Yes.
We are armchair politicians.
Uh-huh.
So we are criticizing
Yes.
the unsaved, and
Yes.
there are a lot of unsaved things they are doing.
Yes.
We're equally criticizing the few Christians that go inside there, and
Absolutely.
then they do something and all of us jump on them.
Yes.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yes.
You want a godly candidate?
Yes.
Become a member of a political party. I
Yes.
told you I paid 5,000 shillings
By the way-
to join a political party.
Yes.
Step number 2.
Yes.
Contribute towards somebody's campaign.
Yes.
When Mutava Musimi was running, how
Yeah.
many of us gave money? How many of us gave money?
No, we didn't. You know, we were just watching
we were
from
just
the
watching.
sidelines.
And then when he got inside there and didn't do what we wanted, we were
Yes.
criticizing.
Yes.
Where were we when he needed us?
Okay.
And so if we're going to change, for this 20 cohort of mine,
Yes.
I'm supporting some of them.
Yes.
Because they have to raise money for their own support.
Okay.
I have put my money where my mouth is.
Yes.
So I'm speaking to all the Christians out there.
Yes.
Find the next Christian who is running and send a campaign contribution.
Yes.
If you don't know any, I've got somebody running for MCA.
Yes.
East Assemble constituency.
Yes.
I can tell you how to get in touch with him.
Yes.
M-Pesa him 1,000 shillings to run his campaign.
Yes.
The reason why our politicians are corrupt is because of who funded their campaigns.
Absolutely.
So if BAT gave a campaign contribution,
Yes.
when I get into parliament,
Yes.
I have to vote for what they want.
Yes.
If the local bar association gave me money,
Yes.
I have to support laws that allow free consumption of alcohol.
Absolutely.
So if we as Christians are not willing to fund politicians,
Yes.
he who pays the piper calls the tune.
Absolutely.
Our politicians
You
are
can-
dancing to the tune of the person who has funded.
Who has paid the
Who
bill?
has funded.
So that's a very powerful insight and very, very, you know, it's a kind of like an indictment to all those Christians out there, you know, complaining left, right. And I like the picture of armchair politicians. So there are a lot of you guys out there who are armchair politicians. You are enjoying the show because we're talking a bit of politics, but you need to put your money where your mouth is. And tell us, you know, show us what you can do and get involved in politics. Support a politician, a Christian politician, so that then, if you actually give a politician some money, I mean, you funded part of their campaign, you can actually call them to account.
Yes.
You can tell them, look, we put you into that office, and look at what you're doing. Look, so you can call them to account because of that. Okay, very good. What would you tell a Christian who really wants to go into politics? And they want to go and play the game in a way they will win. They'll come out shining. Because I think the narrative we have had is you become a politician and then we never hear you and we never see the change you make. What would you tell them at this point, if those who are passionate?
So first is to be sure your vision has come from God, because politics, everything has to be seen as mission. Huh? Remember I said mission, all of us are full-time missionaries.
Yes.
So even a Christian politician is
Yes.
a missionary.
Yes.
Only that his area of mission is parliament.
Okay.
And so if God has given you that call, because God calls leaders.
Yes.
And we have had leaders who have been called by God. So God could be calling you into that.
Yes.
And he expects that once you get inside, you do his business.
Yes.
Now, what is God's business? God, we are told that the foundations of the throne of God are righteousness
Yes.
and justice.
Yes.
So when you go in as a Christian leader, you are doing God's business.
Okay.
We were talking about 4 categories of people that are close to God's heart.
Okay.
He talks about the widow. He talks about the fatherless.
Yes.
He talks about the poor.
Yes.
He talks about the alien.
Yes.
And all of these are social problems that are supposed to be addressed through policies and laws.
Okay.
So again, when you go into parliament, that is your business. Those are
Yes.
the people God is concerned about.
Yes.
And those are the people you're supposed to be legislating for.
Yes.
And so it's not a secular or a religious agenda.
Right.
Those things sound fairly secular, but they're actually in the Bible.
Yes.
And God expects a Christian politician,
Yes.
whether he's an MCA, whether he's an MP, even if he's the president of this country,
Yes.
to address those people.
Okay.
So he doesn't need to say, I'm doing it because I'm a Christian. No.
Yes.
Just stand up for the defenseless, the widow, the fatherless, the orphan. So
Yes.
when you're managing your CDF
Yes.
and building classrooms so
Yes.
that the children who cannot afford school fees can go to school,
Yes.
that is God's agenda.
That's
so it's
God's
not a
agenda.
religious agenda,
Yes.
but it is God's agenda.
Absolutely.
And so the advice that we are giving to these young people
Yeah.
is that, one, you need to be a bit pragmatic.
Yes.
And so there is politics, because the way to get into parliament, you have to be a member of a political party.
Yes.
There is no good or bad political party.
Okay.
There is just a political party.
Yes.
Because of course you can run as an independent.
Yes.
But generally you have to go through a party.
Okay.
And for me, what I discovered from my 1-year stint,
Yes.
you then have to be in the party that can win in your place. So be
Yes.
careful how you pick the political party.
Yes.
Join the party, be a card-carrying member.
Yes.
Be active in the party.
Yes.
That is how you shall secure the party nomination.
Okay.
And so it's not a question of are you ODM, are you Jubilee, are you KANU, or are you whatever.
Yes.
That's just the party that is current in your area.
Yes.
And that is, it's a vehicle.
Yes.
That's a vehicle that you have to come in through.
Absolutely.
So pick the party that will enable you to get to parliament.
Yes.
And then now once you're inside, then have a very clear agenda.
Right.
What do I want to do for my people? And then you have to separate politics.
Yes.
So there's what is going on.
Yes.
There's BBI, and there will always be things.
Yes.
And then there's what you need to do for your people.
Okay.
And if you're very clear on what that vision is,
Yes.
and you pick one or two key things that I want to do.
Yes.
I mean, I look at someone like Kivutha Kibwana,
Yes.
and he has transformed Makueni.
Yes.
Because he focuses on one thing at a time.
Yes.
First, it was building a hospital.
Yes.
He built a 150-bed hospital.
Okay.
Then he built a mango factory.
Yes.
He's installed open contracting. So just clarity of vision.
Yes.
Knowing what it is I want to do to serve my people, and remembering that you came there to serve the people. So
Exactly.
long as you're serving them, I believe if there wasn't a 2-term limit,
Yes.
this is a guy who can be re-elected in perpetuity. And I've met a 4-term MP.
Yes.
He actually left because he said after 20 years, I think it's time for somebody else.
Yes.
Not because the people didn't want him. And you can imagine to be a 4-term MP.
Yeah.
There's something this guy was doing for the people.
Okay.
And so be very clear what the agenda is.
Yes.
And then even as you go out to sell it, also be clear who you are.
Okay.
Because what people are looking for is authenticity.
Yes.
And so I think where people go wrong, you start out because people know you. So say you're an MCA.
Yes.
There are people from your village. They
Yes.
know where you came from. They know you are living in a mud house.
Yes.
And then 3 years later, now you're driving a Prado. So what changed?
And you have a 5-bedroom
And then you now start
mansionette.
telling them, I don't have money. If you drive a Prado, you must have money. So
Absolutely.
if you intend not to be caught in having to buy people
Yes.
and being genuine by saying, I don't have money,
Yes.
then live a life that has no money.
Absolutely.
And so I believe when you're simple, you're accessible to the people,
Yes.
that is the way you're going to sell your agenda. So we can complain and say the politics of Kenya has got money. That is true.
Yeah.
There are also people who've gotten in without money.
Okay.
You can be one of them.
Okay.
And then I think the last thing that has come out clearly over this 1 week, because we've had politicians, we've had people in the executive coming to talk to our interns.
To the interns,
and they're
yes.
saying the critical place of the personal Christian disciplines of prayer,
Yes.
of reading the word,
Yes.
and of fellowship.
Okay.
And so I think one place where we go wrong is when we start doing it in our own power.
Okay.
If you're going to try and win an election in your own power, you'll fall into the worldly ways of winning elections.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that, Rachel, you have a very, very, profound story. And I like the way you're articulating these matters, because we really need, to help our people understand. And those of you viewers who are watching us, we just have about 2.5 minutes to go to end this program. But before we end, those of you who are following us, I want you to know that if you are interested in politics and you have a passion for that, you can move from just being an armchair politician, where you talk about what's going on and criticize everyone left, right, and you can become a player. There are people that are willing to mentor you. There are people willing to hold your hands and to take you through the process. And so I'm so excited about, Rachel, this program, the Hesabika, the governance induction program, mentorship program, and the Hesabika initiative as a whole, and how you are translating, you said translating what?
Concern into action.
Concern into action. And so, and I think that's really who we are as Christians. We must not just be people who talk. We are people who say and do. So as we come to the end, I would like you, Rachel, to give us a parting shot. There are people looking out there and saying, oh, Rachel, maybe you have, what do you have to tell young people who now are listening to this and are going to follow this? Please give them your parting shot. And you can look at that camera.
I think it's to say that Kenya can change.
Yes.
We must never give up hope that Kenya can change. And what is going to change Kenya is me and you.
All right.
So it is not the politician out there. It is you picking an issue that concerns you, the way I have done. Pick whatever it is, the environment, the corruption, street children, food security in Kenya, whatever the issue is, pick one issue and do something about it. And we are going to change Kenya.
Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, for staying tuned and watching the Gigi Report. I believe you have learned something today. If you'd like to get in touch with us, the numbers are on the screen. You can also go to www.hesabika.com and get more details about what the Hesabika Trust is doing. And thank you for staying tuned in. We look forward to being on this program and delving into other subjects on the Gigi Report. This has been your host, Godfrey Gishoke. Thank you for tuning in and watching. God bless you.